Hello, my name is Barbara Leland, and I'm a certified holistic health coach in Huntington Beach, and I do the healthy eating classes here at Hoag Cancer Center. So today we're going to try to immunize ourselves with a little information. So you know it's coming, right? The flu season is almost here, and there's not a lot you can do to avoid it. There's going to be germs coming your way. And the thing that we can do is fight. We can fight back, and now we're going to learn how to keep our immune system strong, okay, for our conquering these germs that are coming our way. So what exactly affects our immune system? So everything that affects our immune system is the food we eat, the medications we take, the stress we have in our lives, how much sleep we're getting, and how much good sleep we're getting. So, you know, you can go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 8 and you've only had 6 hours sleep, right? Now that we have our Fitbits telling us all this, and then how much exercise do we get? All these things affect our immune system. First, we're going to talk about what we eat. So that plays a huge role in our immune system and how our immune system can fight off the germs. And when we boost our immune system, we want to boost it with antioxidant-rich superfoods that are found in nutrient-dense, plant-centered diet. So plant-centered, I'm not asking you or suggesting to you that you become vegan or vegetarian even. If you want to, that's great. That's great. But I'm not saying that you have to be. But your diet should be plant-centered, meaning it should be most of your foods should be coming from plant sources. So superfoods are a food that will give you a lot in a little package, right? A lot of nutrition in a small package. So it's going to have vitamins and minerals. It's going to be antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. They're going to have antioxidants and anti-inflammatory. So all these things, you know, maybe not all of them in one, but all these things are going to be in your superfoods for immunity. So let's start talking about what some of those superfoods would be. And of course, we're going to start off the list with vitamin C. We all know that vitamin C is super good for our immune system, right? And there is so much vitamin C in our fruits and vegetables that really you don't need to supplement with vitamin C supplements, because you get so much vitamin C in your fruits and vegetables. So vitamin C will support your immune system, protect against viral and bacterial infections, and also lessen the duration and symptoms of a cold or flu or COVID even. So vitamin C is a good boost for us. And sources in the winter and fall, the sources that we have for vitamin C, you can see this list of fruits and vegetables. So in the fruits, cranberries are great for vitamin C, but you know, cranberries are kind of sour. And so often when you have cranberry juice or you have cranberry berries, you know, dried berries, they're with sugar. So you want to watch the sugar on cranberries. I've taken cranberries, chopped them up, put them in salads, and they're fine. You know, you're not expecting a very sweet taste, but you just get this crunchy, wet taste, and that's good. Grapefruits, kiwis, lemons, we know all the citrus fruits have vitamin C. Papayas go into the fall, through the fall, and peppers, they go into the winter. Persimmons are coming, I can't wait, and pomegranates also all have they're good sources of vitamin C. And then in our vegetables, our winter vegetables, we have bok choy and broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrot tops. So, you know, when you go to the market and you have your carrots that are chopped off, you just get the carrot. That's fine. But what's happening with those tops? The carrot tops have lots of nutrients. So when you go to the farmer's market, or if you're shopping at a place that they don't chop off the tops, be glad, because you want to look at those tops. Same with beets also, by the way. And radishes. You want to look at the tops of those vegetables and see the health of the greens. The health of the greens gives you an idea of how healthy or how fresh the carrots or the root is. So when you buy the carrots with the tops on, you can take those tops. Don't let them chop it off. Some places they go, you want us to chop off the tops? No, leave them, especially at the farmer's market. leave them on. And so leave those tops on, and then you can chop them up and put them in your salad. You can steam them, you can saute them, you can put them in your smoothies. They're super good for you, and it's almost like you're throwing away food when you don't need to. Okay, off my soapbox and back onto vitamin C vegetables. Collard greens, dandelion, kale, mustard greens, parsley, spinach, cooked spinach. I'm saying cooked spinach, not that raw spinach doesn't have vitamin C, it does. And yes, the spinach does deplete some of its vitamin C when you cook it, but the reason I'm saying this is so you can get a double whammy. When you have spinach that's cooked, you're increasing your ability to absorb the iron in the spinach. The oxalates in the spinach are reduced when you cook them, and the oxalates are what prevent the iron absorption in your system. So it's kind of a trade-off. You lose some of the nutrients when you cook it, but you're able to absorb more of the nutrients that are there. So that's why I'm saying cook spinach, but just lightly cooked. You don't have to cook the heck out of it. Just when you're all the greens, when your food is hot or your water is just hot, put them in, and that's it. Just 1 minute, and they're done. Okay, vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is super important for our immunity. When we go out in the sunshine, and if you have light skin, minimum of 15 minutes a day. If you have dark skin, it could be up to about 2 hours a day, because of the pigment in your skin could be blocking the UV rays, right? So the lighter your skin, the less time you need in the sun to get the vitamin D exposure. So when we're in the sun, the vitamin D that we're getting is D3. D3 has been found to be the most effective for our immune systems. So sunshine is a great source of vitamin D, and you can have sunshine if you're vegan, if you have sunshine if you eat meat. Doesn't matter. It's just sunshine, okay? So go in the sun, depending on the color of your skin, and get that vitamin D from the sun. Oh, and by the way, usually I take questions while I'm talking, and please do go ahead and put them in the chat as you think of them. But I'm going to answer them at the end because I've got a lot to get through, and the last couple of times I went too long. So, all right, so D2 is also good for your immune system, as I said, but D3 is more effective. That doesn't mean D2 shouldn't be consumed or worried about, but we'll get into that. So D3, like I said, you get it from the sun. And it's also found in animal sources. D2 is found in a few vegetable sources, such as fungus and yeast. When you're getting your vitamin D in D2, the thing is you need more of it to equal the effectiveness of the D3. So it's okay. If you're vegan and you're not getting in the sun and you need to get all your vitamin D from D2 sources, just you have to have more of it. D2, D3 vitamin D can inhibit some of the inflammation that can make COVID more severe. So I know we heard a lot about vitamin D during the COVID time. So this is one of the reasons why, okay? So here are our sources for D2 and for D3, other than sunshine, right? So our skin, we don't have vitamin D in us, nor do mushrooms have vitamin D in it. Mushrooms make vitamin D that's in the mushroom when they're exposed to sunlight, just like our skin makes vitamin D for us when we're exposed to sunlight. So oyster mushrooms have the most D2. So if you put oyster mushrooms in the sun, they will develop the most D2 of the mushrooms. And shiitake mushrooms are the one that actually do make D3. And then there's a bonus. These mushrooms also have zinc. Shiitake mushrooms also contain zinc. So we're going to talk more about zinc later, but that's a bonus. You're getting 2 in 1 there. Yeast also makes D2 when exposed to sunlight. So when you're using yeast products, you're getting D2. Animal products, D3. So you can eat less animal products, so that's a good thing, right? Less animal products to get the amount of D that your body needs. Eggs, and I put in here the yolk. So when you're ordering an egg white omelet, what you're doing is you're actually lowering your opportunity to get D3. Okay, so the D3 is in the yolk. Salmon, there's a bonus there. You get omega-3s also. Sardines, swordfish, watch out on swordfish because mercury is quite high. Tuna, and if you're, again, the mercury situation, if you're going to get tuna, the skipjack tuna and the canned light have the lowest amounts of mercury. You can still eat tuna, just don't eat it, like 2 times a week, okay? Okay, so a lack of sun exposure during the fall and winter may result in deficiency of vitamin D, as we're talking here. But what's interesting is they've done some research on this, and they're finding that one of the reasons why we have flu seasons is because of our lack of sun exposure. And so our vitamin D goes down, which impacts our immune system. So it's not just because it's colder and everybody's huddled inside. No, it has to do with what we are getting in our body to fight off the germs. Interesting, I thought. Okay, a few words about magical mushrooms. Actually, more than a few. There's quite a few words here. I could barely fit them on the page. So I'm not talking about magic mushrooms here, you guys. I'm talking about magical mushrooms or medicinal mushrooms. So these mushrooms all are I'm not going to read everything to you, but you can see that they all have different properties and they all are immune building. Most of them you're going to want to get in a powder form, a tea form, something. They're not really going to be delicious in your stir fry, except for the shiitake. The shiitake, of course, will be. There was another one here. I think it was the cordyceps. But the shiitake is great. Also, remember the shiitake is the one that has the D3, and it has antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal effects. So shiitake mushroom, if you're looking for something to add to your food, throw some shiitake in the sun, put it in your stir fry, and you're going to get a nice, not only D3, but you're also going to get zinc, and you're going to have these other properties, okay? If you're taking mushrooms, these magical mushrooms, as a supplement, they can be found as an extract, a powder, or a tea, but do check with your doctor before taking any supplements, not so much for the tea, but for the other supplements, because some mushrooms, for example, it can lower your blood sugar. That's a good thing, but if you're on insulin, that could be a dangerous thing. It can help your blood pressure. That's a great thing, but if you're taking blood pressure medication, maybe not so good. Okay, so you need to check with your doctor if you're taking any medications. We don't really know what we're doing when we're taking supplements, right? We hear on the TV or the radio that this is good for us. We read in a magazine, this is good for us, and we go to the store and we buy it. But remember, these supplements are made by pharmaceutical companies. They are something you're putting in your system that you really have no idea. And you need to be careful. So if you have any issues going on, please check with your doctor before taking any supplements. And if you're pregnant too, you want to be careful about taking supplements. Zinc. So let's talk about zinc now. Zinc helps the immune system fight off bacteria and viruses, so that's great. It's necessary for immune cell function. It's an essential nutrient, meaning the body doesn't make it. So we have to take it in on a daily basis. And the body doesn't make it or store it. And if we have a zinc deficiency, that can cause a weakened immune system. So where do we find zinc? Sorry to say, red meat and shellfish. I'm not so sorry about the shellfish. I'm not crazy about the red meat. Especially the oysters, then crab and lobster, then shrimp and mussels. And I'm listing it in the order of, what has more. So the oysters have the most zinc, and of the shellfish, the mussels have the least, but it doesn't mean they don't have. It just has the least of these guys. Beans and other legumes, mushrooms, especially shiitake and kale, nuts and seeds, dairy, eggs, whole grains, and dark chocolate. Watch your sugar, but yeah, go for that dark chocolate. And then on the legumes and the whole grains, you can see I've asterisked it. They have phytates in them, and so the zinc is not as bioavailable because of the phytates. When you soak your beans, which if you're making fresh beans, you're soaking them, When you buy canned beans, that's okay too, because they have been soaked and then they are soaking even further in the liquid that they're processed in, right? That they're sitting in the can. Rinse them and you'll get rid of even more phytates, which will increase your zinc absorption. Does that make sense? You open a can of beans, you pour them out, you rinse, or whatever, do however you're doing it, rinse them well, and you're going to get rid of more phytates than you even thought. Seeds and grains also should be soaked. So for, like, example, quinoa, it's good we rinse quinoa before we cook it, right, because of the outer bitterness. But go ahead and soak it. And you can even take it a step further and sprout them if you want, and then cook them. But that's another seminar. But that will decrease the phytates, and then that increases your zinc absorption. And then grains that are leavened, such as in bread, that, especially in sourdough, that increases your zinc and lowers the phytates. Okay? So here's your zinc list, and let's move on. Folate, which is B9, folate is important because it strengthens red blood cells. This is pretty cool. So the red blood cells get strong, and then what they do is they go out and they capture these bad guys, the pathogens. They take them, they neutralize them, so they tie them up so that they can't hurt them. They neutralize them, and then they take them to the immune cells. And the immune cells then, that are in the spleen and the liver, and then the immune cells then destroy them. So that's the role of folate is important, because the folate's not actually killing the germs or even building your immune system, but it's strengthening your red cells, and your red cells are the ones that are taking it to the immune cells. So folate is important. And good sources in the winter for folate would be dark green leafy vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, collard, kale, mustard. You noticing a pattern here? A lot of these things are repeating, right? A lot of these things are repeating. So when you're eating one thing for one reason, you're also serving other reasons. Eggs, fruit, again, oranges, papaya, bananas also are folate. Legumes, again, liver, seafood, whole grains. Okay. So good plant sources there, except for maybe the liver and the seafood. Okay, beta-carotene and vitamin A, these are also important. Beta-carotene converts to vitamin A. What vitamin A does, it goes into the mucous membranes and moistens the upper respiratory tract's mucous membranes. That's important because the mucus helps absorb the bacteria that comes into your system through your lungs, through your nose, through your upper respiratory system, and then expels them either as a sneeze or a cough. So you don't want to have a dry mucous membrane situation. You want it to be moist through vitamin A. And then vitamin A also stimulates immunity cells. So pretty important, that beta-carotene. And so if it's orange and sometimes green, it must be beta-carotene. Winter sources, and these are in the, again, the most to the least, most to the less beta-carotene. Not least, because they all have beta-carotene. So sweet potatoes, carrots, spinach, butternut squash, romaine lettuce, oranges again, red peppers, broccoli, pea pods. So again, these beta-carotene converts to vitamin A, so it's super important. Talk to your doctor if you're thinking of taking vitamin A supplements, because too much vitamin A can be toxic. So you don't know, let's say you say, okay, I can take whatever, X milligrams or X micrograms of vitamin A, and you buy the pill for that much. But you don't know how much you're getting from your food sources, right? Do you know that, your broccoli and your this and that, you're getting the vitamin A also, the beta-carotene, and you eat a carrot and there you go, you got vitamin A. So you don't know, and maybe other supplements that you're taking, like your fish oil or whatever, are giving you vitamin A as well. So make sure you check with your doctor if you're taking vitamin A. If you eat your food the way you're supposed to, I don't think you need a supplement. Too much vitamin A can be toxic. And then sulfur and quercetin. sulfur is in onions and garlic, both onions and garlic, and that's antimicrobial. And antimicrobial is great because it's antimicrobial fights bacteria, fungus, virus. It's better than antibacterial and it's better than antiviral because it's everything. So onions and garlic are super fighters, antimicrobial properties. Quercetin is in onions, and that's a flavonoid, and that's antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and it's an antihistamine. So you've probably heard of taking quercetin if you have allergies or whatever. So quercetin is antihistamine, but it's also antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. So eat lots of onions and garlic. So the immune boosting property of the sulfur is allicin, and again, that's in the garlic and onions, and that includes like chives, leeks, and shallots. And those properties are released when they're chopped or crushed. So when you chop up your onions or your garlic or whatever, and that's releasing the properties of the allicin, which is in the sulfur. That's why it makes your eyes cry, right? When you're chopping them up, all those properties are being released. Also, if you were to take a bite of an onion, which I can't imagine, but you might want to take a bite of an onion, then when you're chewing it, chew it well, because again, when it's crushed and chopped by your teeth, the properties are going to be released. Quercetin is found in onions, chives, leeks, and shallots. And when you're doing your garlic, it's best when most of the properties you're going to get is when it's eaten raw. So what I like to do is when I'm cooking something, I will saute some garlic in with my cooking, but then also at the end, it's good to throw garlic in at the end, so you're having the benefits of the almost raw garlic, but it's just cooked enough that you're not gonna, it's not gonna knock your socks off. And then if you're using odor-free garlic supplements, you're not getting the benefits of the sulfur. So that's kind of important, okay? So let's talk about the gut, because when the gut is happy, everyone is happy. I'm not going to go too far into this. We did a seminar on the gut microbiome not so long ago, and it's a big subject. But I just want to say that this is really important for your immunity. Super important. And all of the things we've been talking about already support a healthy gut. So a healthy gut has a lot of good bacteria, has bad bacteria too that we're trying to balance, right? But it has good bacteria, and it's super important for your immune system. And it responds to injury or infection. It builds your immune system so that your body doesn't, that it attacks the bad bacteria, but that it doesn't attack your healthy body tissue. So you want your immune system, your gut microbiome to be in balance. That has a lot to do with autoimmune diseases, because that's when your body attacks its own cells, right? So we want a balanced microbiome for our immunity. And foods that support a healthy gut. If you watched that seminar, you'll remember we talked about prebiotics and probiotics. So prebiotics, okay, let's go to probiotics first, because in your gut you have all these bacteria, these good bacteria, and probiotics are bacteria that you are introducing into the gut. Yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, miso, kombucha, pickles. Not the pickles that are made with vinegar, but the pickles that are actually fermented. These are all probiotic, and those are healthy bacteria. The prebiotics are what feed, they're the food for the healthy bacteria. So you're putting more healthy bacteria into your system by eating these fermented foods, and you're feeding them by having these, all these foods that we've already been talking about, by the way, right? So yeah, so when you're eating those foods that are a plant-centered diet, you're feeding your healthy gut. You're feeding the bacteria that you're trying to build up with eating these fermented foods. You're feeding them with the healthy plant-centered diet. Make sense? Any questions, please put it in the chat and I'll answer it at the end of the seminar. Okay, so now we're going to talk about roots and teas, herbs, tinctures, and supplements. The roots are turmeric and ginger, And then the teas, herbs, tinctures, and supplements are chlorella, echinacea, elderberry, which is sambucus. So the ginger and turmeric, the immune boosting property is gingerol and ginger, and turmeric is curcumin. And you can get these fresh, frozen, powdered, powdered as a spice, supplements, teas, or extracts, okay? And we talked last seminar about using fresh ginger and fresh turmeric, okay? And of course, that's always the best way to use it. Supplements, we have echinacea and elderberry, and that's available in tea, capsules, and tincture. These are best to use at the first sign of sickness or if you've been exposed. So you can use echinacea up to 10 days. Elderberry, you know, if you feel like you're going to be in a situation for a while, you know, the fall's coming and you want to start building up your immune, you can use elderberry for up to 12 weeks, okay? All right, so, and just remember the rest. What affects our immune system? We've already talked about the foods we eat. We're not going to talk about the medications we take because I understand that the medications that we take are necessary to combat the situations that we're in. So the goal is to get off those medications. So we're not going to talk about how that affects our immune system, but realize that when you're taking medications, you need to work even harder to get your immune system healthy. So you need to eat even healthier. How much stress we have, how much sleep we get, and how much exercise we get. So when we are in stress, our cortisol goes up. And when our cortisol goes up, we need that for our fight or flight. But what happens is when the stress goes away, the cortisol fades, and our bodies relax, but our immune system is temporarily suppressed. So think of it, if you're in a constant stressful situation, or you're constantly stressed and relaxed and stressed and relaxed and stressed and relaxed, your cortisol is increasing at all those times, and your immune system is suppressed. So you're going to have more chance of a lowered immunity when you're under stress. Also, if you don't get good sleep, that's going to increase your cortisol, and that will interfere with your cortisol levels, and that's going to interfere with your immune system. Exercise, we want to have regular, daily, moderate exercise, up to 45 minutes a day. And what that does is it flushes bacteria out of the lungs. It causes the white blood cells to circulate more rapidly. And also the rise in the body temperature during and after your exercise, you get a little flushed. That helps prevent bacteria from growing. It's kind of like when you get a fever, right? Exercise slows down the release of stress hormones, so it slows down that cortisol, so it's keeping our immune system up. And it helps us sleep better, which is also reducing our cortisol. So, questions. I did it. I did it, and I'm going to take some questions. And if a person is on a vegetarian vegan diet, what food supplement do you recommend to get enough protein? That's a big question. Why don't you send me an email on that, and we can talk about that. There are a number of foods and issues, things that we can use as a vegetarian to get protein. Your webinar about 1.5 months ago, you said to stay away from casein. Why stay away from casein? Oh gosh, I can't even remember now. I'll have to go back to that webinar, and if you want to send me an email, I will respond to that email. I really can't remember, sorry. Okay. This is another question about casein. I don't know if it's the same person, but I'll address that in the email. Are both white and sweet potatoes equal in benefits? I have always heard sweet potatoes are healthier. They have different properties. So the sweet potatoes have the beta-carotene, right? The white potatoes do not. The white potatoes have benefits, have vitamins that the sweet potatoes do not. The sweet potatoes are also a little bit better on your blood sugar. Thank you. And so it's not that white potatoes are unhealthy. It's just they have different properties than sweet potatoes. The best source of yeast. Well, the best source of yeast is a naturally occurring yeast, which is sourdough, right? So if you are having sourdough bread, please make sure you look at the ingredients, because some sourdough breads, if you want to go truly to the best source and have just the sourdough culture, then that is going to be, you're going to not see yeast on the labels. Now, if we're talking about adding yeast to a vegetarian diet, a vegan diet, we have nutritional yeast and brewer's yeast. What is it that you're looking for the yeast? It just really depends. So like for vegans, when we put the nutritional yeast into different recipes, we're getting B12, which is a supplement that they put into that yeast. So it really depends on what you're looking for. But if you're just wanting a good source of natural yeast, that's going to be a sourdough culture. If I can't have raw red pepper, is a jar of pre-cooked red pepper still a good source of vitamin C? Yes, it is. You know, when we cook things, the nutrients get lowered. So it's still a good source. You're not going to get as many. But when we cook things, some of the other nutrients, depending on what nutrient we're looking for from that item, are more readily available or absorbed. So you see what I'm saying? The cooking of it may or may not diminish what you're looking for. And if you're looking for the vitamin C, like we're talking about here, it's still a good source. You may just have to have, you know, if you were going to have a half a pepper, maybe you want to have a little bit more. I mean, if you're going to have a quarter of a pepper, maybe you want to have a half a pepper, something like that. Okay, what additives in food should you look for and stay away from? All of them. There are so many additives that you don't want in your food. All of them. If you have something in your food that you don't recognize, it's not food. Okay? You may even think it is, like potassium bromate. Oh, it's potassium. No, it's not potassium. It's bad. And so if you're looking at your label and it doesn't just say whole grain, salt, water, whatever, don't get it, because it's got additives you don't want. I'm sorry, that's vague, but I can't go, the list is so long of what you don't want to have in your body, in your foods. Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're good, and we will see you next week, and we'll make something delicious that will increase your immune system, okay? Now, if you have any questions later, especially the person with the casein question, ask me at 2life-2health@hotmail.com, okay? See you next week, same time, same day.